Good evening, YouTube. Tired Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Man, it has been an active day so far, and it's still ongoing. We still have an ongoing tornado warning, as a matter of fact. This is a very dangerous setup, by the way. These storms are pretty much embedded supercells. These are going to be rain wraps, so if you happen to be under a tornado warning, just react. Don't try to look for it. You're not going to see these. But this tornado warning is actually near the city of Lafayette in Louisiana. Oh my goodness. So this is a big deal. This is a highly populated area. And from what I've been observing from the time that I've been at work and from the time I've gotten home before starting the video, is that these tornadoes form up very quickly. They become strong very quickly, have really strong debris signatures. So this could very well already be on the ground. Another thing to keep an eye out for, and while there isn't a tornado warning for this yet, these special marine warnings right here. While this looks a little bit more linear, there have been quite a few supercells earlier throughout the day that were going over the Gulf and spawning water spouts, and then these supercells would preserve themselves as they would go on to land here. If we go back in previous frames and run this into a loop here, you can still kind of see that there's a semi-supercellular mode as these storms start to roll in. But I'm starting to see a trend where we're transitioning to more of a damaging wind threat. Although, of course, with this setup right here, this weak echo region, embedded QLCS tornadoes are still very much possible. In fact, I'd say likely, especially towards the southern region of Louisiana. Big area to keep a close eye on will be Baton Rouge, this corridor between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, where I still think a few supercellular storms, both prefrontal and QLCS, could be possible, which would increase the threat for tornadoes further. The further out we get, I'm thinking the threat's going to start to lessen a little bit as we get towards areas like Mobile and Gulfport, Gulf Shores, Destin, Panama City. I think the threat for you guys will start to lessen. This will be more of a damaging wind threat, pretty good rain, a few rumbles of thunder, but I'm not thinking that it's going to be as bad for you guys. Same for you guys further up north. The conditions could come here, or conditions could come together here, so to speak. But one issue that there could be is lack of dynamics, which is honestly what I'm leaning more towards. Because if you look in the marginal risk area, we have like little special weather statements, but no severe warnings of any kind. So that being said, that's pretty much what the severe threat for tonight will entail. There is a severe threat for day 2, and we will talk about that in just a minute. But we also have to talk about the wintry side of the system. We cannot forget that there is a pretty robust winter storm going on here over towards Oklahoma and some of the northern parts of Texas, where you've been seeing heavy rain throughout the day. And you can see this slew of winter weather advisories, winter storm watches, winter storm warnings, and this goes all the way through the Ohio Valley into even the mid-Atlantic here, and then into the Northeast. So these are going to be areas that we will be watching over the next couple of days. So right now, I'm mainly going to be going over the next couple of days, because this is going to be a pretty lengthy video from the looks of it. So bear with me here. But we're going to switch this over to the winter weather radar, so we can kind of see exactly what's going on with our snowfall. Oklahoma City is getting heavy snow right now. Wichita Falls, Texas is getting snow. It's kind of crazy to be saying that while there's severe weather just east of the border now, and there's been multiple tornadoes over towards Houston. What a contrast. But there's a nice line of moderate to heavy snow between Wichita Falls, Oklahoma City, Fayetteville, Arkansas, and even starting to stretch into Springfield, Missouri now. And this is going to be persisting and actually increasing in coverage as we go through the night tonight. We're going to go over the models with that on that in a minute. And then we'll, of course, watch this stretch its way into the Ohio Valley, towards the Great Lakes, or the southern parts of the Great Lakes, and then, of course, the Northeast. So here we are looking at, tonight's severe threat, and this is about the time frame that we're at right now. Here's our snow line that's developed here, and we're going to watch this increase in coverage into the overnight here. This is O4Z. This is getting towards, I'd say, maybe midnight or 11 p.m. Central. We'll watch this move forward, and then eventually we'll watch the entire state of Missouri get involved in snow. In some areas, just a little bit further to the north of where we're seeing severe weather, right around Arkansas in particular, we could be seeing we could see a changeover to snow here. Actually, no, they're not getting severe weather. Reaching a little bit, I guess. Stuff like this can happen. What can you do? I'm just a weather nerd. That being said, the snow persists into the Ohio Valley by the time we get into early morning tomorrow. There is an area that I've been watching over the past couple of days where we could see some freezing rain right around the northeastern side of this low pressure here. We'll have to watch this southern sector for severe weather, and we'll get into that in a minute. And then we'll watch this system move off to the north, and we'll see areas like New York City, Philadelphia get into the action here with some snow, and eventually we'll change over to rain, and then we'll watch this system get out of here. While there may be a clipper system that comes in behind it and delivers a little bit of extra snow towards the Ohio Valley as we head into Thursday afternoon. And then we'll watch this little clipper system come in on Friday morning, and that'll be for more so the northern plains, maybe the Great Lakes. We'll get into the details with that another time. But let's go ahead and quickly look at the snowfall totals. So we're getting pretty aggressive here with the snowfall totals, of course, looking at the Euro. We'll get into some of the shorter range models in just a minute. We're in a model comparison loop here. So this is the Euro. We have an area where we're seeing about up to 2 feet of snow, which I think is a little bit preposterous at this point for northern Arkansas. So definitely a heavy snow band that develops here, but that is a little bit aggressive if you ask me. And of course, over towards the northeast, I think there's a better chance where we could see something similar to that. But even so, it looks like the totals are going to be a little less. I think this system will start to run out of moisture at this point, or at least that's what the NAM's indicating. We'll have to see what some of the other models are looking like, but the NAM just seems like the easiest for me to use right now. Make our comparison with the Canadian, and it's pretty similar look, a little bit more aggressive towards the northeast, less aggressive for areas like Arkansas where that snow band is expected to develop here. In fact, if I remember correctly, there is a meso discussion for that, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Making comparison with the GFS, a little bit aggressive here, and that's the latest run. Don't quite think this will be the case here. I think that snow band is going to develop a little further to the north, and it's not going to be as intense as what these are highlighting here. Look at the NAM, lighter totals, still a foot in some places. Still going to be expecting some heavy snow here. Here's what the NAM 3 kilometer is, and it's picking up on that too. I'm not sure I'm agreeing with this, but this is very interesting. So that being said, we'll keep an eye on this region overnight tonight, and then we will watch this head off to the northeast, and we'll have to keep an eye towards the Adirondacks for heavier totals. And then, of course, our DPS model we don't really look at too much, but we'll look at it just for fun. A little bit lighter on the totals. I can kind of agree with this more. Then we'll take a look at the blend of models. What we have with the blend of models is a little something different. We still get a pretty impressive area here, so maybe there might be some validity to this. I'm not entirely sold on it still, but still about 10 to 11 inches. That's still very impressive for this region. You don't see that often. So this is a pretty stout snowstorm in its own right, but I'm still not completely sold on it being 10 inches. I'm not sure yet. I think that's still a bit aggressive. We'll have to see what this does, but it does look like there's enough of a moisture sector there to where it's not completely preposterous, actually. I'm going to go back on what I said earlier. But we can still see swaths of 6 inches as we head towards the Ohio Valley, parts of the lower Great Lakes, and then we'll start to see those totals pick back up as we get towards Adirondacks. Otherwise, we're seeing widespread areas of maybe 2 to 4 inches, maybe a couple areas where we get above 4 inches towards the northeast, and then a little bit more towards the coast, we start struggling to get an inch, and then eventually we're at trace. And this is assuming that this doesn't eventually melt with rain. Just because an inch may fall doesn't mean this will all hit the ground. That's one other thing to note with this. So that's what we have going on with our blend of models here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Storm Prediction Center here. So here we are taking a look at the overview of our storm system right now. Enhancer is still in effect. Decent number of tornado reports right now, sitting at 10. Wind reports will probably be coming in soon. Tornadoes often end up taking the higher end of the story here from the start, and then as time goes on, we will start to get those wind reports. This does seem to be a very tornado dominant event, though, I will say. So we'll see what happens. But let's go ahead and look at the meso discussions here, as we have one for a tornado watch that was just issued 32 minutes ago, and then a mesoscale discussion for snow 34 minutes ago. We'll look at the snow one first. And this is why there's so much confidence over here, as we have concern of heavy snowfall potential of 1 inch per hour or higher. And this dotted black line here is our rain snow line. And there's a small pocket in here where we could even see 1.5 inches per hour snowfall rates. So it makes that 9 to 12 plus inches not as preposterous as I thought. I'm not as good with winter weather as I am severe weather, but I'm still learning. I'm still getting better with that, but I can kind of see why there's potential there. Not entirely yet, but anyway, new tornado watch actually just got issued not too long ago from the looks of it, and we'll go ahead and look at the latest meso discussion with that. Tornado threat starts to shift a little further towards the east, and this is pertaining more so towards Baton Rouge. Louisiana, not quite there just yet, but we are going to be expecting this to shift further to the east as time, probably over the next 2 to 3 hours, I would say. Tornado threat's going to persist into the overnight, and with that increases the risk of nocturnal tornadoes, of course. So as if rain-wrapped tornadoes aren't bad enough, imagine not being able to see them in general. So if you're in these areas, especially towards the southern sector right here, definitely heed these warnings, please. These tornadoes have not been messing around today. They've done a lot of damage, and I see no reason as to why they can't continue to be intense. So that being said, let's go ahead and look at the tomorrow's threat. Actually, went to the wrong screen. And here we go. This is our slight risk area. We have it stretching almost to south of Virginia Beach here, down the entire Atlantic coast, East Atlantic coast, or the southeastern Atlantic coast, I should say. Wilmington, you're in there, Charleston, Savannah, all the way down towards the I-95 corridor. We're having to watch you guys for the threat of severe weather. Columbus, you're in there as well. Macon, I think you're just to the north of this. We'll have to watch you guys too. Pretty much to the south of Atlanta, we'll have some chance of severe weather, but it's going to be relatively limited. We also can see Columbus in the action there. Just to the east of Dothan, Alabama, we're in there. And then we can see Panama City, Tallahassee. You guys are in the action there. And then Jacksonville's in that marginal risk, and it stretches just to the north of Tampa. Main threat is generated by tornadoes and wind. Wind threat is going to be the most dominant threat, but there are a couple of sectors here we have to watch. First sector, of course, is going to be near the Gulf Coast, where we have the greatest chance of instability and good wind shear. And then we also have to look at over towards Wilmington and towards Raleigh, or just to the east of Raleigh. Just to the north of Charleston, there's a higher chance as well over here. We'll go ahead and get into the details with that in just a second now. So this is where we were meant to go now, from this point. But here we are looking into the overnight hours. Very strong low-level jet. You can see almost 87 knots towards where this upper level low is going on the south side of this. And this is trickling down over towards this region. I don't think I've ever seen a low-level jet this strong, actually, which is unbelievable. So here we are going into 12Z, which would be about 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. We still have a low-level jet starting to push 80 knots in some places. This could be pushing towards like 90 to 100 miles an hour in translation here, just above the ground, which is nuts to think about. And there's a little pocket here where we're seeing those higher low-level jet speeds towards the Florida Panhandle here and parts of southern Alabama, southern Georgia. And this persists throughout the day now. I do think that this threat will exist earlier in the day. As we get towards the afternoon, the threat should start to diminish towards this region, and then we'll have to shift our attention more so towards the north and east, heading more so towards the mid-Atlantic. That low-level jet towards the afternoon really looks like it starts to intensify around this area, getting up to about 70 knots. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous to watch the clouds moving around if you just happen to be outside. But if there is a severe warning issued for your area, definitely take it seriously, because these storms will have plenty of wind energy, to say the least. It's probably going to be significant wind gusts out ahead of this storm in general. Like, the wind field with this storm is going to be absolutely ridiculous. In fact, just before I left work today, I was already starting to feel some of the effects, even with it being all the way over here towards Louisiana, which is nuts. So between that and the temperatures, which we're going to take a look at as well, it's going to be a big factor in what happens next. I'm going to jump this forward here just a tiny bit. And here we are looking in the morning hours. Here's our warm sector. Not the most impressive thing we've seen, but it's there. Getting into the mid to upper 60s in some spots early in the morning. We'll watch this move further and further eastward, and watch how this really starts to pick up as we go further and further to the south. As these storms, this is a spot where our storms are expected to develop here. We'll have to watch this area next, and we're still sitting towards the mid 60s, and in this sector towards the 70s. This is where our greatest chance of severe will exist. And then as time goes on, I did not mean to click that sounding, although it does show marginal severe. It's nothing compared to what we were seeing yesterday. But as time goes on, as we head into late Thursday night, our severe weather threat's pretty much out of there. And we can see the cold air rushing in right behind this system on Wednesday night, and by Thursday we should have a relatively frigid morning. Not as frigid as this morning, but it'll be noticeably different. And then, of course, when we get into Friday, yikes. Compare our dew points. It's going to be a similar deal. So here is our moist sector right here by the time we get to about 9-10 o'clock in the morning. And here's our marginal tornado threat. Decent low to mid-level helicity map. Very strong helicities also, so we'll have to keep an eye on the tornado potential here. Cape is going to be a limiting factor, I feel like, but this does have the indicator of potentially a classic supercell. Let's hope that isn't the case. It's a nice little moist sector that develops right here. Lapse rates are going to be a big thing with this, though. I think it's going to inhibit this a lot. If we had some decent low to mid-level lapse rates, I would be a lot more concerned. And then, of course, as time goes on, that warm sector develops a little further to the north and east. And then we'll have to watch this area here as we get towards the evening hours of Wednesday. And then, of course, as we get towards Thursday morning, threat's gone. Severe threat will be gone. We'll be stable here, and that's going to be that. So I guess one more thing to look at. While we really talked about, honestly, how the Cape values have been really low here, maybe we can take a look, I suppose, at the significant tornado parameter. We'll make sure that we're covering our ends here, making sure that this upcoming tornado threat doesn't sneak up on us quite like this one might have over towards East Texas. Oops, didn't mean to go that far, but we're looking at 10Z. That's about maybe 5 a.m., and there's still a decent parameter right here. There's about a 2.4, I'd say. Ooh, solicities are really strong at the low levels here. There is some potential where there could be a small upgrade possible. I don't consider it likely. But right here towards the surface, we have a helicity of 529 meters squared per second squared. And you can see this little curve on the hordeograph here, classic supercellular look. I think this will most likely be an embedded storm or a storm that comes in from the Gulf. It's concerning though. It is concerning. At the very least, a slight risk is the right call for right now. We'll have to see how conditions trend overnight. And then, of course, as the day goes on and we get towards the afternoon, we start to lose those parameters before we see a slight resurgence towards North Carolina. Even then, the parameters aren't super impressive. There is something to be looked at here towards the North Carolina coast. It has a very similar sounding to the last one. Hordeograph's strong, helicities are strong. There's even some decent Cape. It's over 500 joules. You really want over 1,000 if you were looking for a classic severe event, but this severe event hasn't really been classic in its own right, so to speak. It's been very messy, but it's been pretty prolific in its own right. So, I mean, honestly, hang on a minute. Looking closer at this SKU-T chart, we're seeing those lapse rates. I'm gonna be watching this area a little bit closer tomorrow. And I hope you guys do the same as well if you happen to be living over here towards the North Carolina coast. Of course, by the time we get towards Wednesday night and early Thursday morning, this is going to be out of here. And then we'll start to see that front move in. That's the end of this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was a little messy. It was kind of on the fly because I'm actually still keeping a close eye on the severe outbreak on my phone. But anyway, you guys stay safe if you are in a severe weather affected area tonight. Be careful out there. Also, if you're in a winter weather area, of course, also do the same. Try to stay inside unless you absolutely can't help it, or unless you really are just that good at traveling on the roads. Even then, I still would try to discourage you from it. But anyway, if you enjoyed the video, definitely drop me a like or do the double click where you like and subscribe. Always appreciate that. And then, of course, share this video to anyone that's in an area of interest or an area of risk. Always love to get the word out to other people and try to help out where I can. But anyway, this has been Ty, Metalhead Weatherman. You guys have a good night, and I'll probably see you guys in the morning. Take care and stay weather aware.